My hands trembled as I stared at the leather folder in front of me. The number seemed impossible. $270. Go find another table, my brother Marcus had said just moments earlier, his voice carrying across the elegant dining room of Belmont's. This one's for family, not adopted girls. The laughter that followed still rang in my ears. My parents, Patricia and Robert. My sister Sophia and her husband. Even other diners had turned to stare as my face burned with humiliation under the sparkling chandeliers. My name is Angela Allen. I'm 27 years old, and I've lived with this family for 22 years, ever since they adopted me when I was 5. 22 years of being reminded I didn't quite belong, that I was different, that I was somehow less than. But the only person who ever made me feel like I truly mattered was sitting at the far end of the table with an expression I couldn't quite read. Grandma Catherine, my adoptive mother's mother, watched everything with unusual intensity. Marcus, that's enough, I said quietly, trying to maintain some dignity. Oh, don't be so sensitive. My mother Patricia waved her manicured hand dismissively. We're just teasing. You know how Marcus is. If this story hits home, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every betrayal I share comes with a twist you won't see coming. I knew exactly how Marcus was. At 30, he'd perfected the art of making me feel small while maintaining the appearance of family unity. Growing up, he got the best of everything. Private school, a new car at 16, a fully funded degree from a prestigious university. I got public school, student loans for community college, and 3 jobs to afford a used sedan. Sit down, Angela, my father Robert ordered. You're making a scene. I sat, swallowing the protest rising in my throat. This dinner was supposed to celebrate Sophia's latest real estate deal, some investment that my parents had helped finance. They were always helping Sophia and Marcus. When I'd asked for a $5,000 loan to start my graphic design business 3 years ago, they'd laughed and told me to be realistic. The evening dragged on with conversation flowing around me like I wasn't there. Sophia bragged about her new Mercedes. Marcus discussed his latest investment banking triumph. My parents beamed with pride, asking questions, offering congratulations. When I tried to mention the major client I'd just landed, a contract worth $50,000, my mother cut me off mid-sentence. That's nice, dear. Marcus, tell us more about your bonus. By the time dessert arrived, I'd retreated into myself, the familiar numbness settling over me. This was my role in the family, the outsider, the charity case, the one they kept around to feel good about themselves. Then the waiter approached with the check. My stomach dropped as he placed it directly in front of me. What's this? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophia's laugh was sharp and bright. Oh, didn't we mention? You're paying tonight. Consider it your contribution to the family since you're always taking and never giving. Taking? The word came out strangled. I've never asked you for anything. The roof over your head growing up, the food, the clothes. Patricia ticked off items on her fingers. We gave you everything, Angela. The least you can do is buy us dinner. My hands shook as I opened the folder. The total made my vision blur. $270. They'd ordered the most expensive wines, multiple appetizers, premium steaks, lobster tails. Marcus had ordered 3 desserts just because he could. I can't afford this, I whispered. Of course you can, Sophia said sweetly. You just told us about your big client. $50,000, wasn't it? This is nothing to you now. The truth was that $50,000 was spread over 6 months of work, and most of it was already allocated to business expenses, rent, and paying off the student loans my family had refused to help with. This single dinner would wipe out my savings, but I couldn't make another scene. Couldn't give them more ammunition to call me ungrateful, difficult, dramatic. With shaking hands, I pulled out my credit card and placed it in the folder. Just a moment, please. The voice cut through the chatter like a blade. Everyone fell silent. Grandma Catherine, who'd been quiet all evening, was standing at her end of the table. At 78, she still commanded attention, her silver hair perfectly styled, her posture straight as a rod. Something in her expression made my chest tighten. "Mother, what is it?" Patricia asked, irritation creeping into her voice. "We were just about to leave." "Sit down, all of you." Grandma Catherine's voice carried an authority that made even my father straighten in his chair. "I have something to say, and you're going to listen." Sophia rolled her eyes but stayed seated. Marcus checked his phone under the table. My parents exchanged confused glances. Grandma Catherine's gaze swept across each of them before landing on me. Something flickered in her eyes. Sadness, maybe, or disappointment in everyone else. "I've been watching this family for years," she began, her voice steady but cold. "Watching how you treat Angela, how you've always treated her." "Mother, really?" Patricia protested. "This isn't the time." "Be quiet." The command was so sharp that my mother actually obeyed. "I'm 78 years old, and I've spent the past few months thinking about my legacy, about where my fortune should go when I'm gone." The table went very still. My father's fork clinked against his plate as he set it down. Sophia's smug expression faltered. "We all know how this works," Grandma Catherine continued. "The bulk of my estate goes to Patricia, then distributed among the grandchildren. That's what the current will says." I watched Sophia's face light up with greed. She'd been counting on that inheritance for years. "But I've had my lawyer draw up a new will." Grandma Catherine pulled an envelope from her purse. "Signed and notarized yesterday." The silence was suffocating. "You can't be serious," Marcus said. "You're changing your will because of what? A stupid joke?" "A joke?" Grandma Catherine's laugh was bitter. "I've watched you all mock and belittle Angela for over 2 decades. I've watched you exclude her, humiliate her, treat her like she's less than human. And tonight, you made her pay for your excess while you laughed about it." "We were just having fun," Sophia protested, but her voice wavered. "Fun?" Grandma Catherine repeated the word like it tasted foul. "You think cruelty is fun?" My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Grandma Catherine walked slowly around the table until she stood beside me. Her hand rested gently on my shoulder. "Angela is the only one in this family who's shown true character," she said. "She's worked for everything she has, built a business from nothing with no help from any of you. She's kind, talented, and resilient, despite your best efforts to break her spirit." "Mother, you're being dramatic," Robert said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Am I?" Grandma Catherine's eyebrows rose. "Patricia, when was the last time you asked Angela about her life? Really asked and actually listened to the answer?" My mother's mouth opened and closed. "Marcus, have you ever congratulated your sister on her accomplishments? Ever acknowledged her success?" My brother stared at his plate. "Sophia, have you spent even one day treating Angela like family instead of a servant?" My sister's face flushed red. "So here's what's going to happen," Grandma Catherine said, her voice gaining strength. "My entire estate, every dollar, every property, every investment, is going to Angela." The explosion was immediate. "What?" Sophia shrieked, jumping to her feet. "You can't do that. That's not fair." Marcus slammed his hand on the table. "Mother, think about what you're saying," Patricia pleaded. "You're talking about billions of dollars. Angela isn't even—" "Stop." Grandma Catherine's command silenced them. "Angela is more family than any of you have ever been. She's earned this not through blood, but through character." I sat frozen, unable to process what was happening. Billions of dollars. Grandma Catherine's entire fortune. "You're being manipulated," Robert said desperately. Angela must have done something. Angela has done nothing but survive your abuse. Grandma Catherine cut him off. And that ends tonight. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Walter, it's Catherine. Yes. File the new will immediately. Make sure it's ironclad. My family's faces ranged from shock to fury to disbelief. This isn't over. Sophia hissed at me. We'll contest it. We'll fight you in court. Try it, Grandma Catherine said calmly. I've made sure everything is completely legal. I had a medical evaluation this morning confirming I'm of sound mind. She'd planned this, every detail. Then she turned to me, her expression softening. I need to tell you something else, sweetheart. I'm sick. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. I have maybe 6 months. The world tilted. What? I found out 3 months ago, she said calmly, though I saw the pain beneath. I've spent that time getting my affairs in order, making sure my legacy goes to someone who deserves it. Tears blurred my vision. The one person who'd ever truly loved me was dying. Don't cry, Angela. She pulled me into a hug. This isn't sad. This is justice. The next morning, I woke up in one of Grandma Catherine's guest rooms, momentarily disoriented by the silk sheets and the view of Lake Washington through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Then the memories crashed back. The restaurant, the bill, the announcement. Everything. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. 43 missed calls from Sophia, 27 from my mother, 16 from Marcus, dozens of texts ranging from pleading to threatening. I scrolled through them with a strange detachment. You're being selfish. Think about the family. Patricia. I'll destroy you in court. You won't see a penny. Sophia. We need to talk. This can still be fixed. Robert. Grandma's clearly not thinking straight. Help us get her evaluated. Marcus. I set the phone down and walked to the window. As I stared out at the water, memories flooded back. Memories I'd tried so hard to bury. I was 8 years old, standing at the edge of the pool at a family gathering. Marcus had pushed me in, laughing as I thrashed in the water. I couldn't swim. No one had ever taught me. Swimming lessons were for real family, as Sophia had once said. My father had eventually pulled me out, but not before I'd swallowed water and thought I might drown. The family had laughed about it for weeks. I was 12 when Sophia told everyone at school I was adopted because my real parents didn't want me. The rumors spread like wildfire. I'd come home crying every day for a month. When I told my parents, they'd said I was being too sensitive. I was 16 when they forgot my birthday. Not just that year, but 3 years in a row. Meanwhile, Sophia and Marcus had elaborate parties with dozens of guests, expensive gifts, and professional photographers. I was 19 when I'd asked for help with college expenses. I'd been working 3 jobs, barely sleeping, trying to keep my grades up at community college. Marcus had just graduated from his prestigious university, debt-free. Sophia was in her 2nd year, also fully funded. When I'd asked for $5,000 to ease the burden, they'd laughed. My father had said, "We can't afford to throw money away on unrealistic dreams, Angela." But they could afford Sophia's new Mercedes, Marcus's down payment on his first condo, the family vacation to Europe that I hadn't been invited to. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Miss Angela, breakfast is ready. Miss Catherine would like to see you in the study." I found Grandma Catherine sitting behind an enormous mahogany desk, looking surprisingly energetic despite yesterday's revelation about her health. Thomas, her longtime driver, stood nearby, and a distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit sat across from her. "Angela, this is Walter, my attorney," Grandma Catherine said. "We need to go over some things." Walter stood, shaking my hand with a firm grip. "Miss Angela, it's a pleasure. Your grandmother has spoken very highly of you. I sat down, feeling like I was in a dream. Walter opened a leather portfolio and began explaining details of the trust, the companies, the investments. Numbers that seemed impossible swam before my eyes. $8 billion. That's what Grandma Catherine's empire was worth. 8 billion in pharmaceutical companies, real estate developments, tech investments. The immediate access accounts activate today, Walter explained. $5 million for your personal use while the trust is being finalized. $5 million. I felt dizzy. There's more, Grandma Catherine said, and something in her tone made me tense. Something you need to know about your adoption. She pulled a folder from her desk drawer and slid it across to me. Inside were bank statements, transfer records, legal documents. When Patricia and Robert adopted you, they received a substantial sum of money, she said quietly. $750,000 to be exact. I stared at the papers, not understanding. Your birth parents? They died in a car accident when you were 5, but before they died, they'd established a trust to ensure you were cared for. Patricia and Robert were approved as adoptive parents and given access to those funds. My hands began to shake as I flipped through the papers. $750,000, and I'd worn hand-me-downs, gone to community college on loans, been told the family couldn't afford to help me. They spent it all, I whispered, seeing the account statements, vacations, cars, private school tuition for Sophia, Marcus's college fund. They spent your money on everyone but you, Grandma Catherine confirmed. I only discovered this 2 years ago. I've been investigating since then, gathering evidence. That's theft, Angela. They stole from a child. The betrayal cut deeper than anything else. They hadn't just been cruel. They'd profited from my loss. They'd taken money meant for my care and used it to spoil their biological children while treating me like a burden. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice breaking. Because I needed to be sure, she said gently. I needed all the documentation to be perfect and legal. And because, she paused, because I knew that once you learned the truth, there would be no going back. Your relationship with them, toxic as it was, would be over completely. She was right. Any tiny part of me that had hoped for reconciliation died in that moment. Walter has already filed a civil suit against Patricia and Robert for misappropriation of trust funds, Grandma Catherine continued. With interest over 22 years, they owe you approximately $2.3 million. My phone rang. My father. Answer it, Grandma Catherine said. Put it on speaker. Let's hear what he has to say. With shaking hands, I accepted the call. Angela. Robert's voice was desperate. Angela, please. We need to talk. Your grandmother isn't thinking clearly. She seems perfectly clear to me, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. This is insane. You can't possibly think you deserve her entire fortune. You've been with us for 22 years, and suddenly you turn on us the moment money is involved? The moment money is involved? I repeated. You mean like the $750,000 you took for adopting me? The money you spent on everyone except me? Silence. Then, I don't know what lies she's been telling you. Bank records don't lie, Dad. The word felt bitter on my tongue. Patricia's voice came through the phone, shrill with panic. That money was for raising you, for housing you, feeding you. You gave me hand-me-downs and made me pay my own way through college, I said. Meanwhile, Sophia got designer clothes and a full ride to a private university. Marcus got a new car at 16. I got nothing. You're being ungrateful, Robert tried. We gave you a home. You gave me a prison, I said, and the words felt powerful, liberating. You made me feel worthless every single day, and you did it while spending money that was meant for me. We'll fight this, Patricia threatened. We'll take you to court. Please do. Grandma Catherine cut in. I'd love to see you explain the financial records to a judge. Explain how you took money meant for a grieving 5-year-old and spent it on luxury vacations. The call ended abruptly. I felt tears on my cheeks. Walter's hand was on my shoulder. Miss Angela, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to understand. You hold all the cards here. They have no legal ground to stand on. They'll try anyway, I said. Of course they will, Grandma Catherine agreed. What? But they'll lose, and when they do, you'll be free. 3 days later, the story hit the media. Someone, I suspected Sophia, had leaked details of Grandma Catherine's will change to the press. "Billionaire disinherits family for adopted granddaughter," screamed the headlines. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with reporters wanting statements. I'd moved into Grandma Catherine's estate temporarily, unable to face my apartment where my family knew the address. Thomas had retrieved my things, and I was living in a strange bubble of luxury and chaos. The public reaction was divided. Some praised Grandma Catherine for rewarding character over blood. Others called me a manipulative gold digger. The comment sections were brutal. She must have been playing the long game. Gold digger alert. Good for Catherine. Family isn't blood, it's how you treat people. That adopted girl is going to blow through billions in a year. Watch. I tried to ignore it, but the words burrowed under my skin. Stop reading those, Grandma Catherine said, finding me hunched over my laptop in the library. She looked frailer than she had days ago, the cancer clearly progressing. People will always have opinions. Let them talk. They're calling me terrible things, I said. They called me terrible things when I built my first company, she replied, settling into the chair beside me. Said I was too aggressive, too ambitious, that a woman couldn't possibly succeed in pharmaceuticals. I proved them wrong. She took my hand. You'll prove them wrong too, Angela. Not by defending yourself, but by being exactly who you are. That afternoon, Walter arrived with news. Patricia and Robert have officially filed to contest the will. They're claiming diminished capacity and undue influence. Grandma Catherine read the documents, anger flashing in her eyes. They claimed I'd isolated her from her family, that I'd manipulated a sick elderly woman, that I'd taken advantage of her declining mental state. This is ridiculous, I said. I didn't even know about the cancer until that night. We have evidence proving otherwise, Walter assured me, including testimony from medical staff, friends, business associates. They're grasping at straws. But something in Walter's expression made me nervous. What aren't you telling me? He exchanged a glance with Grandma Catherine. Sophia has hired a private investigator. They're digging into your background, looking for anything they can use against you. My stomach dropped. There's nothing to find. We know that, Grandma Catherine said. But they'll try to create something, twist innocent situations. As if on cue, my phone rang, an unknown number. Angela, it's so good to finally reach you. The voice was unfamiliar, syrupy sweet. I'm Jennifer Cole from Seattle Scene magazine. I'd love to chat about your relationship with Catherine Hayes. No comment, I said, moving to hang up. Wait, I just have a few questions about your business. There are questions about where you got your startup capital. Some people are suggesting Catherine funded it years ago, that you've been planning this takeover for a long time. My blood ran cold. That's not true. I built my business with my own money. Can you prove that? Do you have documentation? I hung up, my hands shaking. They're trying to create a narrative, Walter said grimly, that you've been grooming Catherine for years. But it wasn't true. I have loan documents, business records. We know, Grandma Catherine soothed, and we'll prove it. But Angela, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get worse before it gets better. By evening, social media was flooded with theories. Anonymous accounts were spreading rumors that I'd failed out of community college, I'd graduated with honors, that my business was failing, it was thriving, that I'd had affairs with wealthy older men I'd barely dated in years. The cruelest rumor was that I'd somehow caused my birth parents' death to access their trust fund. I was 5 years old when they died. This is what they want, I said quietly that night, staring out at the reporters camped at the estate gates. They want me to crack, to do something that makes me look bad. Then don't give them the satisfaction, Grandma Catherine said. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were still fierce. We fight this the right way, with truth, with evidence, with dignity. The next day, she called a press conference. I need you to be there with me, she said. The world needs to see you, hear from you directly. Terror gripped me. I can't. I'll say something wrong. You'll be perfect, she said firmly, because you'll tell the truth. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. at Grandma Catherine's downtown office. When Thomas drove us there, the media presence was overwhelming. Cameras everywhere, reporters shouting questions, a crowd of onlookers documenting everything on their phones. The conference room was packed, cameras rolling, lights bright, the air thick with anticipation. Grandma Catherine sat beside me at a long table, Walter on her other side. She looked small, but unbreakable. Thank you for coming, she began, her voice surprisingly strong. I'm here to address the rumors surrounding my will and my granddaughter Angela. She laid it all out methodically. The documentation of mistreatment, the stolen trust fund money, years of emotional manipulation. She showed bank records, medical evaluations proving her sound mind, testimony from witnesses. Some have suggested Angela manipulated me, Grandma Catherine said. The truth is the opposite. My biological family manipulated her. They took a grieving 5-year-old child and used her for their own benefit. They stole from her, belittled her, and made her feel worthless. Despite all of that, Angela built a life, a successful business. She became kind, compassionate, hardworking. Then she gestured to me. Angela would like to say a few words. My mouth went dry. Every eye in the room was on me. I cleared my throat. I don't know what to say that my grandmother hasn't already said. I never wanted this attention. I never wanted to be rich or famous or involved in legal battles. My voice steadied as I continued. I just wanted a family that loved me. I looked directly at the cameras. I know some of you think I'm a gold digger, that I manipulated a dying woman for money. But I didn't even know about the inheritance until that night at the restaurant. I didn't know my grandmother was sick. I didn't know about the stolen trust fund money. All I knew was that once again, my family was humiliating me. Tears threatened, but I pushed through. My grandmother is giving me her fortune because she believes in who I am, not because I asked for it. And I'm going to honor that trust by being exactly who she sees, someone who builds things, helps people, and refuses to be cruel just because it's easier. The questions came fast after that, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, but Walter fielded them expertly, and Grandma Catherine sat beside me, her hand finding mine under the table. As we were wrapping up, the doors burst open. Sophia. Security moved to stop her, but she was already shouting. This is all lies! She's brainwashed you all! Her makeup was smeared. Her designer dress wrinkled. She looked unhinged. I'm the real victim here. That adopted brat has stolen my inheritance. The cameras swiveled to her, capturing every second. Miss Sophia, a reporter called out. What about the allegations that your parents stole trust fund money meant for Angela? That money was ours, Sophia screamed. We earned it by raising her ungrateful. She caught herself, but too late. The cameras had caught everything: her admission, her rage, her complete lack of remorse. Get her out of here," Walter said to security. As Sophia was escorted out, still screaming threats, I watched the reporters frantically typing on their phones. The narrative had just shifted. Grandma Catherine squeezed my hand. "Well," she said quietly, "I don't think we could have planned that better if we tried." The video of Sophia's meltdown went viral within hours. By evening, it had over 10 million views. News outlets played it on loop. Social media exploded. Did she really just admit they took money for raising an adopted kid? This family is toxic. Angela deserves everything. Sophia just destroyed her own case in under 60 seconds. Public opinion shifted overnight. What had been divided conversation became overwhelming support for me. Walter called that evening, looking pleased. Their legal case just collapsed. Sophia's admission combined with our documentation means they have no leg to stand on. The court hearing is in 3 days. I'd be shocked if the judge doesn't rule in our favor immediately. But he paused. There's also the criminal aspect. The district attorney's office has reached out. They're considering fraud charges against Patricia and Robert. Criminal charges. My parents could go to prison. Don't look so worried, Grandma Catherine said. They made their choices. Now they face the consequences. Over the next 2 days, my family's behavior became increasingly desperate. Marcus went on a local news program, presenting himself as the reasonable middle ground. But the interviewer dismantled his arguments with facts about the stolen money and differential treatment. My father gave a tearful interview about how this was destroying the family, but viewers saw through the manipulation. My mother hired a PR firm and gave a carefully crafted interview, crying at all the right moments, claiming she'd loved me from the moment they brought me home. Some people believed her, but I knew the truth. The court hearing arrived on a gray Seattle morning. The courthouse was surrounded by media, protesters with signs, curiosity seekers. Walter had arranged for us to enter through a private entrance. Grandma Catherine looked frail in her wheelchair. We'd finally convinced her to use one, but her spine was still straight. I held her hand as we entered the courtroom. My family was already there. Patricia had maintained the soft, sympathetic appearance from her interview. Robert looked tired and defeated. Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes, but Sophia stared at me with hatred. Judge Morrison, a stern woman in her 60s, entered and everyone rose. "This is a hearing regarding the will of Catherine Hayes and the contest filed by Patricia Allen and family," Judge Morrison began. "I've reviewed the documentation submitted by both parties." The family's lawyer went first, arguing undue influence, impaired judgment, that the will should be set aside. Then Walter stood. He didn't argue or plead. He simply presented facts. Bank records showing the stolen trust fund money. Medical evaluations confirming Grandma Catherine's sound mind. Documentation of the mistreatment I'd suffered. And finally, Sophia's viral video confession. "Your Honor," Walter concluded, "this is not a case of undue influence. This is a case of a woman choosing to leave her estate to someone who deserves it, and a family angry that their victim has finally escaped." Judge Morrison cut off the family's lawyer when he tried to counter. "I've seen enough," she said. "The evidence is overwhelming. Miss Catherine Hayes was clearly of sound mind when she executed her new will. The documentation of mistreatment is extensive and credible, and the admission by Sophia Allen essentially confirms the allegations of financial exploitation." My heart began to race. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, "The behavior exhibited by the contesting parties during these proceedings only reinforces that Miss Hayes's decision was correct." Sophia stood up, unable to contain herself. "This is—" "Sit down," Judge Morrison commanded, "or I'll hold you in contempt." "I'm ruling in favor of the will as executed," Judge Morrison declared. The contest is dismissed with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm ordering Patricia and Robert Allen to pay restitution for the misappropriated trust funds, $750,000 plus interest over 22 years, totaling approximately $2.3 million. They have 90 days to pay in full. The courtroom erupted. Patricia collapsed in her chair. Robert looked stunned. Marcus put his head in his hands. Sophia started screaming until bailiffs escorted her out. I sat frozen. It was over. We'd won. Grandma Catherine squeezed my hand. "It's done, sweetheart. You're free." Over the next 3 weeks, I watched Grandma Catherine fade. She slipped in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid, sometimes lost in memories. I stayed by her side, holding her hand, telling her about my plans. "I want to start a foundation," I said during one of her clearer moments, "to help adopted children who are being abused or exploited, to give them resources, legal support, counseling, a way out." "That's perfect," she murmured. "Help others like you. Break the cycle." "I will," I promised. "I'll make you proud." "You already have." Her smile was peaceful. "You survived them, Angela. You stayed kind when they were cruel. You're everything I hoped you'd be." She died on a Tuesday morning with me holding her hand and the sun streaming through the window. Her last words were, "Thank you for being my real family." I stayed with her for a long time after, crying for the woman who'd saved me, who'd loved me, who'd given me hope. The only grandmother I'd ever really had. The funeral was private. Just me, Thomas, Walter, and a few of Grandma Catherine's close friends. My family wasn't invited. In the weeks that followed, the full transfer of assets was completed. I was now the heir to an $8 billion fortune. The number was still incomprehensible, but I was determined to honor Grandma Catherine's legacy. The first thing I did was establish the Catherine Hayes Foundation for Adopted Children. Not because it sounded good, but because I knew firsthand how many kids were trapped in situations like mine. The foundation would provide legal support, counseling, emergency housing, and educational funding. The second thing I did was hire an excellent management team for Grandma Catherine's companies. I wasn't ready to run billion-dollar corporations, but I could learn. I attended every meeting, asked questions, studied at night. As for my family, the legal consequences were handled by the courts. Patricia and Robert were convicted of fraud related to the trust fund theft. They received sentences that reflected the seriousness of stealing from a child in their care. The restitution order stood. Marcus and Sophia faced their own challenges. Without the safety net they'd always counted on, they had to navigate life the way I always had, through their own efforts. I didn't gloat. I didn't follow their struggles. I simply moved forward with my own life. When Marcus sent a message months later asking for help, I responded with something Grandma Catherine had taught me: boundaries. "I wish you well," I wrote back. "But I can't be part of your life anymore. What happened in our childhood wasn't normal or acceptable. I hope you can find your own path to healing, but mine doesn't include staying connected to people who hurt me. I'm donating $750,000, the exact amount stolen from me, to the foundation in your family's name. That's the legacy you'll have, helping children escape what I went through." Then I blocked the number, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. A year later, I stood in the foundation's new headquarters, a beautiful building in downtown Seattle dedicated to helping children. The walls were covered with photos of kids we'd already helped, stories of escape and new beginnings. Thomas stood beside me, having accepted a position as the foundation's operations director. "Miss Catherine would be proud," he said. "I hope so," I replied. That afternoon, I was interviewed for a business magazine. Not as the adopted girl who inherited billions, but as a CEO running multiple successful companies and a foundation that had helped over 500 children. The article focused on my work, my vision, my accomplishments. There was a small mention of the family drama, but it was in the past now. I wasn't the victim anymore. Wasn't the gold digger or the manipulator. I was simply Angela, a woman who'd survived, thrived, and chosen to help others do the same. Sometimes people ask me if I feel guilty about what happened to my adoptive family, if I regret how things turned out. The truth is more complicated than guilt or regret. I don't take pleasure in anyone's suffering. I don't celebrate their struggles. But I also don't carry responsibility for consequences they created through their own choices. What I've learned is that the real inheritance Grandma Catherine gave me wasn't the money. It was permission to value myself, permission to set boundaries, permission to understand that love isn't supposed to hurt. The foundation has become my passion. Every child we help, every family we support through crisis, every cycle of abuse we break, that's the legacy I want to build. I've also learned to build my own family. Thomas has become like a father figure, always there with steady wisdom and terrible dad jokes. Walter and his wife invite me to holidays. The foundation staff has become a community of people who genuinely care about each other. I'm learning what healthy relationships look like. It's strange and sometimes uncomfortable. When people show genuine kindness, part of me still waits for the other shoe to drop, for the cruelty to reveal itself. But slowly, I'm learning to trust that not everyone is like the family I grew up with. I started therapy too, a good therapist who specializes in adoption trauma and family estrangement. It's hard work, unpacking 22 years of conditioning, learning to recognize manipulation, understanding that my worth isn't determined by how others treated me. Some days are harder than others. I still have moments where I doubt myself, where the old voices echo. You're being too sensitive. You should be grateful. Who do you think you are? But then I look at the foundation. I read letters from children we've helped. I see the businesses thriving under my leadership. And I remember, I am exactly who Grandma Catherine saw. Someone worthy of love, respect, and opportunity. 6 months after the court case, I received a letter forwarded through Walter's office. It was from my mother, Patricia. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was long, handwritten, filled with apologies and explanations. She talked about her own difficult childhood, about the pressure she felt to prove something, about how she'd never learned to show love properly. She said she was in therapy now, that she was trying to understand where things went wrong. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask for reconciliation. Just said she was sorry and hoped that someday I might be able to forgive her. I read it twice, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I will forgive her. Not because she deserves it, but because I deserve the freedom that comes with letting go of anger. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean opening myself up to more hurt. I wrote back. Once, brief and clear. I appreciate you taking responsibility for your actions. I hope therapy helps you understand the impact of your choices. I'm not ready for contact, and I may never be. I need you to respect that boundary. I wish you healing, but from a distance. I heard she's working now, slowly paying back the restitution. Robert, too, after he completed his sentence. They've downsized their lives significantly. I don't follow their progress closely. That chapter is closed. Sophia and Marcus have gone their separate ways. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Sophia eventually started her own small business, something modest and sustainable. Marcus remarried, had a child, and by all accounts is trying to be a better father than he was a brother. I don't know if they've truly changed or simply adapted to new circumstances. It doesn't matter to my life either way. What matters is what I'm building. Last month, I was asked to give a keynote speech at a conference for adoptive families and child welfare professionals. I almost said no. Public speaking still terrifies me. But I thought about all the children who might hear my story and recognize themselves. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of faces, I shared my truth. Adoption should be about love, I said. About giving a child who's lost everything a safe place to heal and grow. But sometimes it becomes about something else. Sometimes children are adopted to fill a role, to make a family look good, to meet someone else's needs. I talked about warning signs, about the difference between normal family conflict and systematic mistreatment, about the unique vulnerabilities of adopted children and the extra responsibility adoptive parents carry. If you're an adoptive parent, I said, your job is to make sure your adopted child knows, deep in their bones, that they belong, that they're not second class, that they're not here to be grateful for scraps. They deserve the same love, investment, and respect as any biological child. Maybe more, because they've already experienced loss. And then I addressed the adopted children and adults in the audience. If you're an adopted person dealing with mistreatment, please know it's not your fault. You are not too sensitive. You are not ungrateful. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions or comparisons. And it's okay to set boundaries, even with the people who adopted you, especially with them, if they're hurting you. The standing ovation surprised me, but more meaningful were the people who came up afterward: adoptees, foster youth, people with similar stories who just needed to know they weren't alone. One young woman, maybe 19, hugged me with tears streaming down her face. I thought I was crazy, she whispered. Everyone tells me I should be grateful, but I feel so alone in my family. I gave her the foundation's contact information. You're not crazy, I told her, and you're not alone. That's what the money is for. That's what Grandma Catherine understood. Not revenge, but rescue. Not punishment, but prevention. Today is the second anniversary of Grandma Catherine's death. I'm standing at her grave with flowers, lilacs, her favorite. I did it, Grandma, I say softly. The foundation helped over 1,000 children last year. The companies are thriving. I'm learning to be happy. The wind rustles through the trees, and for a moment I can almost hear her voice. I always knew you would, sweetheart. I've been thinking a lot lately about what justice really means. For so long, I thought it meant punishment for people who hurt me, making them understand what they'd done, making them pay. But real justice, I'm learning, is breaking cycles. It's helping others escape what you endured. It's building something beautiful from broken pieces. Real justice is waking up without dread. It's surrounding yourself with people who genuinely care. It's doing work that matters. It's learning to laugh without waiting for someone to ruin the moment. Real justice is freedom. I'm not perfect at this new life. I still have days where I feel like an imposter, where I'm sure someone will realize I don't deserve any of this. I still struggle with relationships, with trusting people's motives, with accepting love without suspicion. But I'm learning, I'm healing, and I'm helping others do the same. That's what Grandma Catherine really gave me. Not billions of dollars, though those are nice. She gave me permission to believe I was worth saving, worth loving, worth fighting for. And now I spend my days giving that same permission to children who desperately need it. Not every case at the foundation has a happy ending. That's something I learned quickly, and it never gets easier. There was a boy named Justin, 14, who'd been in and out of 7 foster homes. By the time he came to us, he was so angry, so hurt, that he pushed away every attempt to help. He ran away from our emergency housing twice, refused therapy, got into fights at school. Our staff worked with him for 8 months. We never gave up, even when he gave up on himself. Slowly, painfully, he began to trust. He started opening up in therapy, made a friend at school, started talking about maybe, possibly, wanting to finish high school. Then his biological aunt petitioned for custody. She seemed stable, passed all the checks, said all the right things. Justin was cautiously hopeful. Family, real family, who wanted him. 3 months later, she kicked him out, said he was too much trouble. He was back in the system, more broken than before. I wanted to fix it. Wanted to personally adopt him, throw money at the problem, make it better. But Dr. Chen reminded me that I couldn't save everyone, and trying to do so would burn me out and ultimately help no one. You can provide resources, she said gently. You can create systems, but you can't control outcomes. Some stories don't have neat endings, Angela. That doesn't mean the work isn't worth doing. Justin is 18 now, aged out of the system. We still provide support. Housing assistance, job training, therapy when he wants it. He's struggling, but he's surviving. Some days that has to be enough. People often ask me if I've forgiven my family. It's the question I hate most, because it assumes forgiveness is simple. That it's a one-time decision. That it's something I owe them. The truth is more complicated. Have I forgiven them? In some ways, yes. I don't wish them harm. I don't lie awake at night consumed with anger. I can think about my childhood without being destroyed by it. But forgiveness, for me, doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It doesn't mean opening myself up to people who hurt me. I've forgiven them in the sense that I've released the anger that was hurting me more than them. I've accepted that they were flawed people who made terrible choices. I've stopped waiting for them to magically become the family I needed, but I haven't forgiven them in the sense of welcoming them back into my life, of trusting them, of giving them access to hurt me again. Forgiveness on my terms means I've processed what happened, I've healed from it, I've built a life I'm proud of, and I'm not carrying the weight of their choices anymore. That's enough. It has to be enough. Sometimes, late at night in my office at the foundation, I imagine writing a letter to 5-year-old Angela, the little girl who just lost her parents, who was about to enter a family that would spend 2 decades making her feel small. If I could send a message back through time, here's what I'd say. Dear Angela, I know you're scared right now. I know everything feels broken and impossible. The people who are about to adopt you won't be what you need. They won't love you the way you deserve. You're going to spend a lot of years thinking something is wrong with you, wondering why you're not enough, trying so hard to earn scraps of affection that should be freely given. But here's what I need you to know. You are enough. You always were. The problem isn't you. It never was. Some people simply aren't capable of the love you deserve, and that's their failure, not yours. You're going to survive this. More than survive, you're going to build something beautiful. You're going to help hundreds of children who feel exactly like you do right now. You're going to turn your pain into purpose. And someday, I promise you this, you're going to wake up and realize you're happy. Really, truly happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because you finally understand your own worth. There's a woman named Catherine who's going to love you exactly the way you needed your adoptive parents to love you. She's going to see you, really see you, and fight for you. She's going to change everything. Hold on, little one. It gets better. You get better. And the world gets to benefit from the amazing person you become. With love, future Angela. I fold the imaginary letter and tuck it away in my heart, next to all the other things I'm learning about healing. Then I turn back to the grant applications on my desk. 300 families requesting help for their adopted children this month, each one a chance to break a cycle. Each one a chance to be the support someone desperately needs. This is my inheritance. Not the money, though that's the tool. The real inheritance is understanding that love should never make you feel less than, that family should be a safe place, that every child deserves to be valued. Grandma Catherine taught me that, and now I get to teach it to others. The best revenge, she used to say, is living well. But I've discovered something even better. The best healing is helping others find their way out of the darkness you once knew. And that's exactly what I intend to spend the rest of my life doing. 2 years after Grandma Catherine's death, I found myself in an unexpected situation. The foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We now had satellite offices in 5 cities, a staff of over 60 people, and partnerships with child welfare agencies across the country. But growth brought new challenges and new questions about my own journey. Dr. Sarah Chen, my therapist, had been encouraging me to explore something I'd been avoiding: the difference between protecting myself and closing myself off entirely. "You've built walls to keep out pain," she said during one of our sessions. "That was necessary for survival, but now you're safe. The question is, do those walls still serve you, or are they keeping out connection too?" It was an uncomfortable question. I'd gotten good at boundaries, maybe too good. I had professional relationships, friendships with foundation staff, but I kept everyone at a certain distance. The idea of vulnerability still terrified me. What if I let someone in and they hurt me again? I asked. "Oh, what if you don't let anyone in and you miss out on real intimacy?" She countered gently. "Healing isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about learning to trust yourself to handle whatever comes." That conversation stayed with me for weeks. His name was Daniel, and he was a child welfare attorney who'd been working with the foundation for about 6 months. He was kind, patient, brilliant at his job, and he kept asking me to coffee. I kept saying no, not because I didn't like him, but because I did. And that scared me more than anything. "You know I'm not going anywhere, right?" he said one day after I'd declined for the 4th time. "I respect your boundaries, Angela, but I also think you're worth getting to know. When you're ready, just let me know." He walked away without pressure, without guilt-tripping, without making me feel bad for my hesitation. And that's what made me reconsider. 2 days later, I found him in his office reviewing case files. "Coffee?" I asked, my heart pounding. "If the offer's still open?" His smile was genuine, warm. Always. Over coffee, I found myself telling him things I rarely shared, about growing up feeling invisible, about the complicated grief of losing Grandma Catherine, about my fear that I was somehow broken, incapable of normal relationships. "You're not broken," he said quietly. "You're careful. There's a difference." It was the beginning of something I hadn't expected: a relationship built on honesty, mutual respect, and patience with my healing process. Daniel never pushed. When I needed space, he gave it. When I had bad days, he listened without trying to fix me. As the foundation grew, we encountered a case that hit close to home. A 12-year-old girl named Emma had been adopted at age 7 by a wealthy family. On paper, everything looked perfect. But Emma's teacher noticed something: the way she flinched when asked about family dinners, the expensive clothes that never quite fit right. The teacher reached out to us. And as we investigated, a familiar pattern emerged. The parents treated their biological son like gold, while Emma got hand-me-downs and criticism. They'd received funding to support Emma's special educational needs and spent it on their son's private sports training instead. It was my story all over again. If you've experienced family trauma or adoption-related mistreatment, please know you're not alone. Resources exist to help. You deserve love, respect, and safety. Don't be afraid to reach out for support, whether from therapists, support groups, or organizations dedicated to helping survivors of family abuse. Your story matters. Your healing matters. You matter.